Hi boys and girls, today in grammar we're going to be learning how to use the commas. Our learning intention, we are learning to use commas to separate items in a list. Our success criteria, I can use commas to separate nouns or adjectives in a list. Use the conjunction and to join the last noun in a sentence. What is a comma? A comma looks like this. It is a type of punctuation mark that tells us to take a short pause when we're reading. The pause is not as long as with a full stop. A comma can be used to change the meaning of a sentence or to separate items in a list. Today we are going to look at how commas are used to separate items in a list. Look at this sentence. The fruit bowl has oranges and bananas and pears and kiwis and apples in it. What's wrong with using and between each item in the list? Let's look at our fruit bowl sentence again and remove the word and. It now reads, the fruit bowl has oranges, bananas, pears, kiwis, apples in it. Has it improved it? We do need one and in the sentence, but where should it go? We need to put an and between the last two items in our list. You can see in our sentence the last two items are kiwis and apples, so the and should go between them. So our sentence should now read, the fruit bowl has oranges, bananas, pears, kiwis, and apples in it. We now have improved our sentence by only adding one and. Now we need to separate the other items in the list to avoid confusion. This is where commas come in handy. Can you see where I've put the red commas in? This is where I'm going to take those short pauses. Let's listen to how the sentence sounds now. The fruit bowl has oranges, bananas, pears, kiwis, and apples in it. A comma is put between each item in the list, but the last two items always have and between them and no comma. Here are some other examples of how to use a comma in a list. The rooster's feathers were brown, green, orange, and blue. Once again, you can see I've put the two commas between the adjectives, and between the last two adjectives, I've put the word and. The road was busy, noisy, and full of activity. Can you see I only had to put a comma between the two adjectives and then and before the last part of the sentence? So here are some things to avoid when you're using commas. Firstly, don't put a comma before the first item in your list. The party was fun, loud, and exciting. I only needed to use one comma between these adjectives, fun and loud. I didn't need to put one after the word was. So that's a mistake. Don't put a comma in a list when it's just two items. They can be separated by just the word and. For tea, we are having tea and toast. Now, I could just separate them because they're the last two items just with the word and. I don't need to have, remember the rule, we don't put a comma before the word and. Now it's your turn. I want you to read these three sentences carefully. They're exactly the same except for the placement of the comma. Which one is correct? Have you found it? Number A is the correct one. In the B, we put a comma after the word and. In C, there was a comma after the first word. It should have read, under my bed I found a toy, a brush, a pencil, and a dollar coin. Once again, I've got my commas between my series of things, and between the last two items, I've just got the word and. Once again, read the sentence carefully and look where I've put the commas. Which one is correct? Did you find number C? In number A, can you see I've put a comma after the words carrots? In number B, I've put a comma after the word and. What it should have been is, because there were 3 items, you put a comma between the first 2 and the last 2 you have the word and. It should have read, I have planted peas, tomatoes and carrots in my garden. Read these sentences carefully. Which sentences has the comma used correctly to separate the items in the list? Have you found it? It was number B. There were 3 adjectives to describe the lion. We only needed to put the comma between strong and fearless, and the last 2 were separated by the word and. In number A, we had a comma before and, which we know is against the rules. And in number B, we didn't have to have a comma after the first word lion. Once again, look closely. Where has the commas been used correctly? Did you get number C? In this sentence, we had 4 items. We had a hat, jumper, lunchbox, and pencil case. So this time I needed 2 commas between hat and jumper and lunchbox. And then between the last 2 items, which is lunchbox and pencil case, I only needed to use the word and. Now it's your turn to show me what you've learnt this lesson. In your folder, you'll find a copy of this worksheet. What I'd like you to do is rewrite each of these following sentences, putting in the missing commas and the word and to separate the items on the list. Now you can print off this sheet and write your answers directly onto it, or just copy the sentences onto a piece of paper. Boys and girls, now that you've finished your writing task, I want you to use this checklist to edit your work. Can you get the 5 ticks? Did you start all your sentences with a capital letter? Did you finish them with a full stop? Did you leave finger spaces between your words, and have you written neatly on the lines? Check your spelling. Did you copy the words correctly? And lastly, make sure your sentences make sense. Did you copy down all the words? Once you're finished, get someone to take a photo of your work and upload it into the Week 8 completed work document.